Hello, and welcome to the Rodeo on Record. We'll jump into the good stuff in just a moment, but first, some context. The Rodeo is an independent music magazine showcasing the best in new music across genres of alternative, indie, and Americana. From interviews to featured articles, the mag encompasses everything we love about gig going, vinyl collecting, and playlist making. Now, off the back of the magazine comes our latest venture, the Rodeo on Record, offering a behind-the-scenes look at our content, bringing you snippets of our interviews in their most organic form. My name is Liv Cowell, I'm one of the editors and writers at the Rodeo, and I'm beyond excited to bring you this podcast. The Rodeo on Record is something we've wanted to do for a long time, seeing as there's so much material that we don't get to share with our readers each issue. From bonus questions to tangent chats, this is the place to be for exclusive insight into what makes our magazine so flippin' fabulous. So giddy up, partner, let's get to it. This episode, we're taking a look at some of the artists appearing at Fair Play, a brand new festival taking place across Manchester's Northern Quarter on Saturday, 2nd of April. Coming up, you'll hear from London punkers Big Joni.
For me, punk is about kind of having that ability to create and also to be rebellious and to kind of find your own way through life.
The genre-fluid northern lot, YAANG.
If you just read the lyrics out of context, it just sounds like he's having the worst night ever, but it's sung as if he's having a great night.
And dance floor activists Regressive left.
It would feel a bit out of touch with the time, I feel, to be writing just like happy-go-lucky music.
Each of these interviews is available in full on our website, therodeomag.com, so if what you hear piques your interest, head online to get the full scoop. First up is London trio Big Joni in conversation with our writer Bridie. In the write-up, Bridie summarised them as the black feminist sister punk trio reclaiming space for fellow punks of colour. That's in reference to their involvement in founding Decolonise Fest, a London-based non-profit punk festival celebrating punks of colour. We love to see it. Now, with a kick-ass festival, a debut album and a recent tour with idols all under their belt, Big Joni are ready to hit the Fair Play stage with everything they've got. The audio here follows singer and guitarist Stephanie and bassist Estella explaining how they're shaking up the punk genre and what makes events like Decolonise Fest so important in their fight for diversity.
Yeah, I think kind of the idea of punk is really important to me. I think, sometimes people describe us in so many different words and like they think that we're indie or we're kind of post-punk but I think punk is really important to what Big Joni is and what we stand for in terms of kind of, for me, punk is about being DIY and specifically creating your own culture. And when I found out about, Riot Girl and kind of that kind of 90s feminist punk, that was like really changed everything around for me because it like gave me the chance to see that I could make my own culture. I could do things myself. I didn't have to rely on someone else to tell me what was the most important aspect of culture and what was the most important, what was the best way to write a song or what was the best lyric. It's something you can take into your own hands. And so I think kind of for me, punk is about kind of having the ability to create and also to be rebellious and to kind of find your own way through life.
Yeah, I think similarly, it's like mainly been about community for me and my experience, DIY communities, because that's like how I got involved in playing in bands and stuff. It's always like DIY bands and the people who kind of would give us shows and stuff. It wasn't like big promoters or anything. It was always like people who were our friends or in other bands who were like lending us gear and things like that. That to me kind of showed me like, I guess similarly to what Steph said, like you don't have to kind of stick to the norm in terms of like figuring out how to like play shows or even like how to be in a band or how to write a song or whatever. It was always very much like about if you didn't have what you wanted at hand, you would create it yourself, which I think is kind of what that space was about. And when Decolonise Fest started, it was about not seeing a punk festival for punks of colour, so creating it ourselves in our own community, like for our own people who wanted to see that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that seems like a big part of it for me, I think.
That kind of leads on to my next question, actually. So one thing in the Decolonise Fest manifesto and with yourselves as a band is that you are rewriting the rules of punk. And I wondered if you could expand on what that means to be rewriting the rules of punk as punks of colour. I don't know whether that's sonically, lyrically, or as we say in the culture itself.
I think it's a lot within the culture itself. For so long, kind of punk was described as something that was kind of very static and very kind of rigid, and it was kind of for white guys, Sex Pistols, The Clash, the Buzzcocks. That was punk, and that's what started, and that's how everything else came to life. Whereas kind of looking at punk from a different angle, you kind of see that there was so much more to it than just kind of that like really strict narrative. I think kind of decolonizing punk and kind of breaking it down is about kind of seeing beyond kind of what the kind of white male hegemonic view of that music scene would be, and kind of looking at the like real history of it, of like, that there were people of color in that scene at that time, that, guitar music developed from a lot of kind of Black music communities and cultures, and that there's been so many kind of interactions with different communities that means that punk is more than just one specific thing. So for me, it's kind of about going back in history.
So is that going to like rewriting the rules rather than like rip it up and start again? It's like rewriting it and looking back, as you say, rather than.
Yeah, definitely, because I think sometimes people want to kind of write you into the future, but that kind of negates the reality that we've always kind of been there, and we don't have to kind of ask for permission to be there in the future. It's like we kind of all started it with everyone else and have been there all this while. So knowing that gives you a lot of power, and it gives you a lot of kind of power to kind of realize that you deserve to be there as much as everyone else.
And pride's something that's really important. Decolonise Fest. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. Was it 2016 Decolonise Fest started?
So the first, I think we started planning 2016, and the first festival was in 2017 in London at DOI Space in London. So
I wanted to ask, what is something that you're particularly proud of? Because you've been going for a long time now. I wondered what if there is something you could pinpoint. There'll be lots of things, I'm sure, over the years now. If there's something that stands out as one of, an achievement you're particularly proud of.
And what would you say, Stella?
For me, I think, again, kind of being able to like build a community around it. Like it's a festival where people feel comfortable to attend on their own and know that they're going to meet like-minded people and make friends across the course of the weekend. I think because of the way we usually structure it. So in the past, we've had like opening events on a Friday evening, and then talks and workshops and really interactive things in the daytime on the Saturday and Sunday, followed by bands in the evening. And so like obviously we say it's a festival by punks of colour, for punks of colour, so everybody in the organising team is a person of colour. And every act you'll see on stage, every facilitator for a workshop will be a person of colour. But audience-wise, it's open to everyone. And we always get a really broad, diverse audience. Our artists leave happy because they get to play to people who the majority look like them, are like really into like, even if they've not even heard them before, like giving the music a chance and like paying them attention. We work to make sure that it's an enjoyable experience for the artists in terms of like making sure they're properly looked after, making sure they're properly compensated, things like that. So I think being in that sense, we're proud of being able to, just be able to put on a festival like this that many people have said it's like their first time experiencing something like it, and where everybody feels welcome, and we're able to centre people of colour when we're so often not centred or devalued in like wider society.
We'll leave that chat there, but head to our website to access the full written Q&A completely free of charge, where the pair discuss their highlights from touring with idols and the great things lined up for their upcoming live shows. Thank you to Stephanie and Estella for giving us their thoughts there, and to Bridie for leading that interview. More information on all the amazing events happening within Decolonise Fest can be found at decolonise.org.uk. And of course, you can catch Big Joni on stage at Fair Play in Manchester on the 2nd of April. Next up, it's self-described genre-fluid band YAANG. Now, we're glad that they dubbed themselves that way because it takes the pressure off us trying and failing to sum them up nicely. Our deputy editor Nick had the chance to catch up with the band ahead of their appearance at Fair Play, introducing them as blending electronic goodness, hook-led melodies, and northern grits with all the meat and potatoes of DIY culture, creativity, and having a laugh. Offering an insight into the story behind their recent single, White Socks Yellow, which you can hear now, it starts with the incredible line, "I'm pissed, I lost my phone last night." This clip is a great look into what makes the new YAANG tick. Newest member Ben kicks us off.
Davey was talking about this idea he had for a concept album to do with walking home from work, because he walks out of Atma and it's just surrounded with people from the Pier Hat that have been getting pissed. And then that idea sort of merged with what I already had. It was like, right, let's do a thing of a guy, he's pissed as fuck, he's having a bad night. Like, I don't know where it came from in Davey's head that I pissed my pants, blah, 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 because we were just playing through and he came out with it. And then we were a bit like, yeah, that's cool, we'll keep it. It's mental, but it works. So I'll never truly know the full story within Davey's head of how he came up with that. But it's just sort of a commentary on British drinking culture, which, as bartenders and lovers of beer, we're all very much a part of.
It's like, you could tell that one of the themes in it is the fact that if you just read the lyrics out of context, it just sounds like he's having the worst night ever, but it's sung as if he's having a great night. So it's like he's almost proud of how bad his night is going.
Yeah, like you meet drunks like that, don't you? Sometimes you kind of drink.
Yeah.
Drink to be.
It's like, oh, fucking great! Like my wife's real well angry at me. I got in a fight and I pissed myself. It's like, oh, that's horrible. No, what do you mean? It's great.
Yeah, you have that interaction with someone who's always like, yeah, my wife's just left me, or
as if it's like an achievement.
I'm going through a divorce, as if it's like an achievement. Yeah. So White Socks Yellow, like you kind of mentioned that you've gone away from that electronic vibe to a bit more of a guitar-y vibe. Do you think this is a new YAANG? Because it kind of sounds like a new YAANG.
Yeah, I think so. Like, we write things differently now, because we used to have like a production chain where it'd be like Davey would write like a beat on his sampler, and then I would add like bass lines, and I'd kind of do like quality control. I'd be like, I don't like this bit, take this out. Like, I'd refine it and then add stuff. So everything would always have to start with Davey, because when we play it live, it's always like 70% sampler. But now me and Ben can actually write stuff, and we can just use the sampler for drums. So we can like actually write like fully formed songs, and we can bring riffs like before we even start with the beat on the sampler, which is great. And that was one of the main reasons I was feeling a bit disillusioned last summer, is because I was like, I can't really start any songs. I just have to wait for Davey. But now it's like we can do whatever we want, and that's what we did for White Socks Yellow. We all just wrote our individual bits, and like I had a song that I was doing by myself that I brought to the band, and I was like, well, can we play this? We physically can. So it's much better now, because I think it is a new YAANG. We're trying not abandon the old one, because we still do some old songs, like the song Tracy Beaker, which is on one of our old EPs. Like, we've played that every gig we've ever done since the first one, and like probably will do for the foreseeable until we write anything better. So it's like, we're not trying to like completely erase what it was before, but it definitely feels like we're in a different band now.
As a former bartender in Newcastle, of all cities, I can completely relate to the many, many stories of observing the British public from behind the bar. We need more songs documenting this. Cheers to YAANG for their time, and to Nick for conducting that interview. You can read the full Q&A online, and make sure to catch the boys playing their hometown as they finish up their tour at Fair Play in Manchester. Now, the final band we've got for you today is South England group Regressive Left, whose aim is to bring politics to the dance floor. Sounds strange, but believe me, it works. Sitting down with our writer, Daisy, Georgia, Will and Simon talked us through their story so far, having only performed live for the first time last year. And with COVID cancelled shows, that meant that the debut performance was at bloody Latitude of all stages. With a name like Regressive Left, it's unsurprising that most of their lyrics are a commentary on politics in one shape or form. When prompted by Daisy, the trio had some brilliant thoughts on why this is the case. Take a listen.
When you came together more lyrically or topically, I suppose, was it something that you set out to be a deliberately political band, I suppose, with the name? Or was that something that you just, you're just observing what's happening around us and that naturally comes out in the lyrics and the music?
It's a bit of both. I think I was struggling to write about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I could really write about anything else. So it wasn't like I wanted to write necessarily just about politics. But equally, obviously arriving at the name Regressive Left, I knew that I wanted almost a vessel for the ranting. Even though it's not necessarily all ranting, it's just a vessel for like the dialogue and the discourse. So yeah, it was a semi-conscious thing.
Yeah, I think like what you said earlier, that like doing stuff like Root and like we're all just in our normal lives politically active people, and it's like that's the kind of stuff we talk about as friends. We were never really going to make music that was anything other than political.
Yeah, I mean, if the world became suddenly a much better place and we kind of didn't feel like we had anything more to say, then I kind of do think maybe Regressive Left wouldn't be a thing anymore. Like maybe there wouldn't be anything else to sing about for this project.
Start writing love songs.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's like before Regressive Left, I don't know, like I feel quite sad for younger generations, because when we were like 15, 16, like politics wasn't quite as horrible. Things were bad, but it wasn't this constant like, doom scrolling drip feed of everything is terrible. And I feel like we were quite lucky in that we had a little bit of a couple of years where we could just like listen to bands like, a band like the fact that when we were teenagers there were bands like Tame Impala and stuff that were really big. It seems almost a bit like it's kind of hard to imagine that now.
It would feel a bit out of touch with the time, I feel, to be writing just like happy-go-lucky music.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned the kind of like doom scrolling. I feel like at the moment, or especially in the past few years, social media has become this massive part to play in kind of people's political awareness. And I kind of wanted to know what you make of the sort of trend for like Instagram activism or infographic kind of sharing, and that sort of the relationship of that with your music, I suppose, or kind of being a political band on social media.
Yeah, we don't post about political things. Like I wouldn't, we don't do that kind of thing. And even as people individually, we don't really do that. And there is a sense of if you're not posting about political things, are you active? Are you being politically active and opposing things? But then it's kind of like actually, what you do in real life, like doing stuff like Root, is way more important than sharing a post that says fuck the Tories or whatever. I think as well, it's really important to not get worn out, I think. And we were actually talking about this exact thing the other day, saying that like sometimes it gets to the point where I see so much on social media that it makes me kind of despondent to it, or it
you
makes
almost
me
get a bit like paralyzed.
Yeah, you get fatigued by it, and it's hard. You can't physically feel passionate and angry 100% of the time.
Some people can.
Yeah, but it's not, obviously it's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy.
But on social media, it's so easy to be like that, but that doesn't actually get you any closer to, you know, changing things.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one with Instagram sort of activism and I think on the one hand it's always a good thing for there to be more information out there and for people to be more tuned in and more aware, and the freedom that the internet can provide and social media, like the engagement that you can get and the freedom of information traveling between people is great. But there is a real danger in trying to like distill quite complex things into, you know, however many characters that you can fit into a tweet, or you know, a sort of snazzy Instagram story. It's really tough. It's really tough, and it's the same thing with music. Like, you can't really put very easily quite a complex argument into a pop song. It's I don't know. It's a really difficult one. Like, I think there is a social media does obviously people talk about polarization, but I think it's more that it just encourages being contrarian as well for no real reason. Like, everybody needs to have a take, and sometimes there isn't really, you know, the right take. It's just that you need to sort of,
things aren't always black and white.
Yeah, I mean, imagine every book on politics was just a tweet. You can't do it. Like, I don't know, it doesn't encourage the sort of level of introspection and comprehension.
Yeah, I suppose the idea is that people use whatever information they find on social media, or indeed, you know, lyrical content in political music and that sort of thing, and then use that as a springboard to then go and look deeper.
Yeah, I mean, there was a great, after Black Lives Matter, that was when I first saw all the sort of like, you know, the pink Instagram stories, and it was like, you know, telling people to read Angela Davis and stuff, and that's obviously really good, because that's not just saying, you know, here's the take. It was saying like, do your reading. But then I guess it's always difficult, because you could end up getting like a completely US centric view of things from those Instagram posts, and completely miss like Stuart Hall and all the UK academics on the same topic. So that's why it's difficult.
Have you found with the band name being Regressive Left, have you found that that's geared any attention from like the right wing towards you guys, or has it been kind of
We've had a few nutters.
Yeah, the right don't seem to get irony, which is, well, I feel bad for them, I suppose, that they don't get irony. Yeah, we've definitely had a few like nutters throw their opinions our way.
While I could absolutely let the rest of that fantastic conversation run on, that seems like a good place to leave things for now. Instead, I'll encourage you to head to our website for the rest of the interview, free of charge. Thank you to Georgia, Will and Simon for taking the time to chat with us, and to Daisy for leading that Q&A. Regressive Left will of course be playing Fair Play Fest in Manchester. In fact, in case you missed it, all of the artists we spoke with in this episode are playing Fair Play Fest in Manchester on Saturday 2nd of April, and the full interviews can be read in Q&A format for free online at therodeomag.com. Now, we're releasing 2 episodes for our coverage of Fair Play Fest 2022, so if you enjoyed this, then do go and check out the other episodes and hear our writers speaking with Big Smoke rock duo Horsey.
I remember when we were starting out, we were getting booked to play in like Camden, and every band just sounded like the Kooks or something, like tail end of that like indie nothing like landfill stuff.
Art rockers Blue Bendy.
It can be beautiful and it can be textural, and not only will it sound different, it will just elevate the whole thing.
Dream pop duo Robbie and Mona.
I feel like we could be a bit more expressive with Robbie and Mona in that sort of alter ego character narrative with the music.
And indie rock group Bull.
Any ways that venues can help people feel safe, or bands can help people feel safe, is good.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rodeo on Record. If you enjoyed, and we hope you did, make sure to tell a pal, a colleague, anyone who listened really, and give us a big fat 5-star rating wherever you're listening. This is the best way to support the podcast and help us reach new listeners. For more independent content, visit therodeomag.com, where you can find a shop to all our latest print magazines, as well as a great big load of online content to explore. Interviews, album reviews, strange feature pieces we can't totally explain. We like to think there's something there for everyone. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up to date with our latest work and future episodes. You'll find us at the Rodeo Mag on both. That's all for now, partner, but we hope to see you around these parts again. I've been your host, Liv Cowell, and on behalf of all the team at the Rodeo, thank you again for listening. Yeehaw!